What's up, everybody? It's Joe with J Blake Photo. Oh, I took a trip up to the mountain. I'm up on this mountain and I got two or three problems. Number one, I had planned on bringing out the Ronin. Yeah, I definitely left that at home. My DJI app has lost my login credentials. I'm in an area with no internet. I can't fly the drone. And thirdly, the forecast called for about 25 degrees, but it is currently 4 degrees. But, you know, still a nice trip. The purpose for this trip was actually to talk about this guy, the GoPro Hero 7. So I'm going to grab some photos and some video, and then I'm going to head back to the office to record the actual review because, dang, it is cold. The areas that I really want to concentrate on, its main feature. I want to talk about photos, I want to talk about video, and I'm also going to talk about the new hyper smooth gimbal-like feature that they've been advertising. And then I'll talk a little bit about the app. Also, I'm pretty sure my legs are already numb. Back in the office. Okay, so while I was in the cold, I had an opportunity to test out just a few of the features of the GoPro Hero 7 Black. Now, you might know if you've watched some of the videos on my channel that I also have a Hero 4 Black. This was my first GoPro, and I took it a handful of places this year. And the number one issue that I had with this GoPro was the fact that a lot of the footage, even though I could have shot it in 4K, I had to downscale it to 2.7K so that I could use the 60 frame per second recording mode. Now, the reason that I wanted to do that, the reason that I needed to do that, was so that I could then also stabilize the footage. Additional frames make stabilization better, and I really needed that because this thing was super shaky. Also, this older GoPro didn't have a screen on the back. You actually had to attach it using this little port here, whereas the 7, of course, has the screen built in. So now I have reviewed all the footage that I got while I was up on the mountain, and I just want to talk about 3 different settings. First is the 4K 60. So the footage coming out of the GoPro at 4K 60 frames a second was excellent. I would say it's almost as good as what I've been getting out of my iPhone XS Max. It is very good quality. In addition to that, with the hyper smooth mode turned on, you get some pretty smooth motion. Honestly, I had no issues with jitter, and the hyper smooth did as advertised. It was gimbal quality smooth. Also, the audio out of the GoPro was really fantastic.
So I've done just a little bit of walking around with the GoPro the other day just to see what the options were for vlogging and audio.
Was really surprised. Significant improvement over the Hero 4, and I would say actually even much better than the video that I've seen out of the DJI Osmo Pocket. But even though the 4K modes are super compelling, I think one of the primary areas that people are really interested in when it comes to the GoPro are the slow-mo modes. Of them, there are 2. Both 1080p, so scaling down significantly, but you have the option to shoot at 120 and 240 frames per second. There is one huge difference between these two modes, and the fact is the 240 frame per second mode does not have hypersmooth. But then when I went in to edit, I realized that even at 240 frames, that footage is actually really good. It's rather smooth. Even though the hypersmooth isn't turned on, it definitely felt like there was some other stabilization happening because it really was still very good. Now you go down to 120 frames a second and the hypersmooth kicks in and it gets amazing. And I was scaling that down to 30 frames per second for this video. So honestly, between the 4K 60 and the 1080p 120, that's pretty much all I'm going to use this thing for, and the quality is fantastic. So hopping into Lightroom really quick, we have the photos that I took. If we take this raw image, which was shot super wide, I could have changed this to the linear, but I just kind of wanted to see how that looked. And I want to turn on a profile correction here. I've got this set to the Hero 6 Black. The Hero 7 Black is not yet available in the version of Lightroom that I'm running. Maybe there's an update available, we'll see. But I want to just kind of tweak this distortion just a little bit, just to take out some of that distortion, and we'll just kind of auto correct it here. And I want to do just a little bit of pixel peeping, so I'm going to just zoom in real close here and kind of see for a raw image how we're doing. Not too bad. I can see some definite fringing here on the sides, but the detail looks good for a 12 megapixel image. So if we were to recover those shadows just a little bit, bring those up just a tad more. We'd even throw on a preset, maybe one of Peter McKinnon's. We'll just go ahead and, let's see, throw on Macchiato. Boom, there you go. There's our shot with the GoPro. So I'm not unhappy with the still image quality. I wish the detail was just a little bit better. There's definitely a lot of chromatic aberration. So I'm gonna go in here and try and reduce some of this manually. All right, I feel like that actually did pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy with that image. All right, and last but not least, I want to talk about the app. So the GoPro app, if you haven't used it before, allows you to control the entire GoPro remotely. So if you have the GoPro set up somewhere, or maybe you've given it to someone and you want to see what they're seeing, you can actually do that through the app. And now I have full control of the GoPro from my phone. So you can both select time-lapse options, you can select video, and from within here you can actually modify your settings, so you can decide whether or not you want to have a 16:9 or 4:3 aspect ratio. You can modify the resolution from 4K all the way down to 720p, and then within each resolution you can select the frames per second. So right now I've got it set at 4K 60. We can change that down to 1080p, and when we do that, you see now we have the options for 240 and 120 frames per second. So I'm going to set that to 240, and then you can also modify your field of view. Now, I didn't really understand what this was until I really played with it. So here, for example, here is the wide field of view that you can see that I'm looking through right now, which is pretty wide. That's what you were seeing for most of the footage that I've put so far in this video. But if we switch that to super view, this is a super exaggerated wide field. And then you can also change that to linear, which is, it kind of crops the image in a little bit and gives you more of a one-to-one. Gives you more of a one-to-one in terms of your view. You can control pretty much everything in here, from field of view to the stabilization, whether or not the low light mode is active, as well as your standard video photo controls, right? You can set your minimum and maximum ISO, your white balance settings, your sharpness, your color. I've got it set to flat right now, but you can really do a ton here. You can set up voice control. There's so much in here. So now if we switch it to photo, for example, now it's going to change modes. It's now changed to what looks like a 2:3 aspect ratio. We've got our 12 megapixel wide. We can decide on RAW versus ProTune. ProTune is kind of where you can select a lot of your color options, although honestly, if you're shooting in RAW, I don't really think you need to worry about that stuff. And if you're shooting with this thing and you're watching my channel, why would you be shooting in anything other than RAW? And then last but not least, you have the live option. Now live allows you to stream from the GoPro to your phone and from your phone off to the internet. And you can use Facebook Live for stuff like that. So that is an interesting option. I'll probably play with that in the future. Looking at the photos and video that I've taken out of the GoPro Hero 7 Black, I have been very excited. I'm very happy. I'm actually looking forward to some fun stuff that I've got planned in the next few months where I'll have an opportunity to really use this thing, really push it to its limits and get some great footage out of it. In terms of the value, this thing is $399 retail. I think that is absolutely worth it. Considering the 4K 60 with stabilization and then 1080p at 120 with stabilization, this is a great little device, especially the size. The only thing, the one thing that I'm gonna knock this thing on is battery life. This thing eats through battery very, very fast. I know there was only so much that they could put into this little port here to be able to fit the battery in, but dang, does this thing eat through battery quickly. All right, so in summary, I am definitely giving the Hero 7 Black a big thumbs up. This thing is phenomenal. So go ahead and pick one up. I'll put an Amazon link down below if you want to go ahead and buy one. Great little toy. The other thing about this, really, is that now I'm thinking about more and more opportunities to use this. I'm thinking about different places that I can take it and fun stuff that I can do with it, which is honestly gonna get me out doing more fun stuff. And if you think that that's a backwards way to think, then you don't have a lot of photo nerds in your life, because that's honestly pretty much how our lives work. Let me know in the comments if you plan on picking up the GoPro Hero 7 Black, or maybe you're looking at the silver, maybe the white. Let me know down in the comments whether or not the GoPro is gonna fit in your camera bag. Of course it will, it's very small. And let me know about some of the fun things that you're planning on doing with your GoPro. Thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate it. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you like videos like this. Hit the like button if you like videos like this. Here, I'll put it right about here. We'll put a picture of my face. Go ahead and click that to subscribe, and then I'll put some how-to videos right here. Go and click on those to check them out, and I will see you in the next video.